Hello again and welcome to the Master's Voice. I am Celestial and you are welcome to this channel. To old and new subscribers alike, you are very welcome. If you're brand new to the Master's Voice, I'd like to recommend that maybe you could catch up with where I am right now by making use of the podcast. Podcasting is really a great way for you to cover a lot more material than you can do here. I don't know why the time just seems to go faster when you're listening to a podcast than when you're actually sitting here and watching the video. But there are podcasts that you can start following on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, as well as Listen Notes, Podtail, Odyssey. And there's so many open streaming sites that have, through God's own grace, because I certainly did not apply or set up accounts on those podcasts. They've just started open streaming the Master's Voice Prophecy blog. So there's so many places that you can listen to a podcast hands-free as you're going about your day, driving, taking your kids to and fro, doing a load of laundry. It will help you to catch up with the many things, themes, and prophetic revelations that the Lord Jesus Christ has given me. This blog covers information that Jesus has given me from 2012 all the way to now. We are in August 2024. And as such, I have a written blog. You can find it at www.the-masters-voice.com. However, the blog has not been updated in quite some time because it has had to be a choice between keeping up with the flow of information and messages that the Lord Jesus Christ is giving me here in real time, and making videos has simply become more expedient. But I will try. I've been saying it for a very long time, and I do mean that sincerely. I will try to get this information that I've already covered for at least 6-7 months now in print. But for the meantime, there are quite a few prophecies there. I think there's about 400 and something that already have been handled. They are in print. So you can go and catch up with that. And I'm continuing with the series that I simply titled, the Lord has simply titled it, The Beautiful Men of America. If you are new, I have already done 3 parts to this prophetic revelation of the Lord. 3 parts. They are The Beautiful Men of America, The History of a Lie. The second one is called The Transvestigation of America, The Beautiful Men of America. And the third one is called The Beautiful Men of America, The Lost Decades, Part 1. So even the Lost Decades, it's called that because it's looking at how much information has been lost concerning the fact that, yes, America and many other nations of a Western persuasion, many other Western nations have a very well and carefully concealed history of the males in that society dressing up as females. So this is actually a very old and very ancient practice, and I'm going to briefly touch on in this prophecy because it's good to do a recap when I'm in the midst of a prophecy arc. If you are brand new, a prophecy arc is when God has given me something, and as I'm handling it, the thing just continues to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And pretty soon, it might end up being 5 parts, 6 parts, until the message has been properly handled. Even today, I was going to cover something else, and the Lord told me, no, go back and close the arc. Go back and close what you were working on. There's another prophecy, by the way, that is called Incoming. That one, I think, has 4 parts up so far, and there is still a piece of that prophecy that needs to be handled. So as God gives grace today, I might be able to handle that prophecy and bring it to a close. He was talking to me about closing things, completing things, so that people can be able to find closure in one message of the Lord, however many videos it may take. And so today is called The Beautiful Men of America Prospering by Craft. The Beautiful Men of America Prospering by Craft. And truly the Holy Spirit has really expanded what I've been working on, even more so by bringing in 3 old-time Bible verses. We might call them definitely Old Testament Bible verses, both of them from prophets. One is from Prophet Daniel and the other is from Prophet Jeremiah. So when the time comes, if you have your Bible with you, we will definitely go to look at those 3 verses. However, the banner scripture for today's message, today is, I think it's August the 12th. So that is the date of this message, even though it's part of the original Beautiful Men message which I received from God on July the 2nd, 2024. I received this message from the Lord on July the 2nd, 2024. And as I shared in the first video, this topic is not my favorite. This topic is not my favorite, not because I have anything against people who are gay or people who are trans. A lot of people seem to think that when the prophetic message is coming through, it has to be coming through some kind of personal feeling. And that just goes to show that prophecy hasn't been taught in the American church or even the global church in a very long time. And so when people actually hear truth coming out, their responses are very odd, and it shows that they don't actually care about the character of the God they claim to serve. If you're a Christian and the Lord is exposing a lie, and then you're asking questions like, what is the point of this? Then clearly you don't know the character of God, because you're assuming that because you're comfortable living in lies, God is comfortable living in a lie. No lie can be allowed to exist around God. The personage of God, the character of God, the very nature of what he is as our God means that he is a bright light shining into all darkness. The darkness must flee. How odd to be a church that knows how to sing every darkness must flee in the Christian song. But then when the practical work of causing the darkness to flee by shining lights into the dark corners begins, then everybody is shocked and they begin to call it the private life. Why are you exposing the private life? Whose private life? Whose private life is being exposed? Everybody's private lie shall be exposed, because Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 11 says that you should have nothing to do with the works of darkness, but rather expose them. So definitely, everything that is being done in darkness is going to be cried out in the bright light. Everything that is being whispered in the inner rooms is going to be shouted from the rooftops. That much, I know at least, is biblical. God will absolutely refuse to dwell in the midst of a lie. And as you will hear from Prophet Jeremiah, there are consequences when God's people insist on dwelling in the midst of deceit. A lie is deceit. A lie is subterfuge. A lie is what is not true. A lie is evil. A lie is damaging. A lie brings in general sickness into the midst. Where lies exist, people's feet are not resting on the flat truth of reality. People are standing on a false platform. And what's going to happen when the day of the lie comes? What can we expect to happen when, as Proverbs 12 and 19 says, truthful words stand the test of time, but lies are soon exposed? What's going to happen when the lie's day of exposure comes? The false platform that people are standing on collapses. Now, depending on the size of the lie, it may be a small lie, which means it's a small platform. And when the platform collapses, everyone might just take a brief fall and get some surface wounds. But what happens when the lie is actually platformed up to the heavens? What happens when the gap between where reality is, where the truth is, and the lie is so large that it's almost several skyscrapers long? When the lie collapses, every single person who still insists on resting upon that lie is going to go plunging down to their destruction. So Christians need to learn to take responsibility that when they are hearing God moving in the earth, exposing certain things, shining the bright light of the truth on certain things, revealing certain things, dragging out all hidden perpetrations, all hidden secret network and nefarious activities. When God is busy grabbing these things by their collars and dragging them into the light, it is very important to be very careful to stay out of his way, because when God is in the process of judgment, I want to let you know, as I said here earlier, that God said for me to tell, especially us in America, that there is enough for us too. God said to tell foreign nations that when he is in the process of judging America for her very many evil hidden sins, that there is enough for every foreign nation that gets in the way of that judgment. Every foreign nation that will stand up to defy God, to defy the objects by which God will bring his judgment, such as foreign nations coming to attack this nation, the United States. God wants every foreign nation to know, and I delivered it faithfully, God saying that if you get in the way of Mystery Babylon's judgment, there is enough within him, the judge, to share all of Babylon's punishments with you, whether that's an individual who's saying, no, it shall not happen, it shall not be, whether it's a nation, a group of people, there's enough for everybody to get some. And so those who are wise should know when the time comes for a lie to be exposed, that lie is going to collapse. You will find the structures. You will find all the hard work. You will find all the subterfuge. You will find all the effort. You will find all the expenses, all the resource, all the time, all the logistics, all the workers, everything that went into maintaining and manifesting that lie, simply falling away. The lie will be left to itself. It will be brought out into the harsh daylight. It will be minimized. It will be exposed. It will become itself an object of mockery. And therefore, all those who want to stand by the lie are going to pick up all the judgments and punishments that the lie itself will get. And so I went over some very important scriptures in the first video that is called The Beautiful Men of America, The History of a Lie. Please make sure that you watch that video. One of the scriptures that was explained there is John 8:44. The Bible says plainly that you are of your father, the devil, if you make a practice of lying. So this goes two ways. The one who is actually lying will pick up the judgment and the indictment that can be found in John 8:44. But the one who also insists on their right to maintain the lie, to protect the lie, to participate in the lie, to believe the lie, and keep saying, I can't believe it because of these one or two outstanding issues. I'm seeing that when it comes to this topic, a lot of people, very tellingly women, I don't know if it's the nurturing nature in women or if it is just because, as the Bible says, we are the weaker sex. And therefore, in the old days, a lot of people used to think weaker, not only in constitution, but in mind as well. It is very telling that it is women who are fighting to maintain the lie in their midst that men are cosplaying, men are dressing up as pretending and living full public lives as women. It is not the men who are fighting against this truth. The men are struggling with the reality of it, perhaps. The men are quiet as they think of all the multitudes of women that they have played hanky-panky with in their minds and with their bodies in many cases. So the men are quietly dealing with the shock of knowing that they've been attracted to men. Men are quietly struggling with the question of, well, am I gay if I've been attracted to a Jessica Alba? If I've been attracted to a so-and-so, does that make me gay, celestial? So men are struggling with that. But who you find clustering in the front are the females. The females are here, right? Here's some of what the females are doing. Well, so-and-so has 2 children. You know this how? Your children have been to that person's house on a play date? Were you the doctor or the attending at this so-called celebrity birth that you're standing up for? Part of what this series God is using to do is to expose to people how very gullible people are. People are very, very gullible. Anything that you put in front of them by the medium of television, especially by the medium of screens. If you use screens to give people information, for some reason, the presence of the screen seems to tell people that they are picking up something that is so infallible, it's so unquestionable, you can't knock it down, it's on struts of tempered steel with cement poured over it, and it's fixed fast, and yet it's a screen. And by the same token, the same screen will be used to show the same people a movie, a miniseries, a fantasy, a fiction, a storyline, a movie, a miniseries. Something will be put on the same screen in front of those people, and they will watch it, and their brain will tell them, oh, this one is a movie. But then they will come and watch the same fictionalized mainstream news, for instance. They will come and watch the people who were in the movie, then sit down and do so-called documentaries. And then the people in the documentaries will tell them 1 or 2 or 5 facts. And then the same people who maybe saw that person wearing a pregnancy belly, okay? So she's 110 pounds, she's 120 pounds, but in the movie, she's playing perhaps a woman who falls in love with a man and marries the man and then is pregnant. And during the pregnancy time, you even see her mowing the lawn, and she's in shorts and she's in a short halter, and the belly is out. And as you watch that belly in the movie, it's perfect. It's seamless. it's her skin tone. It exactly looks like her. And then skip ahead, get the narrative moving a little bit, and we go to the operating room, and there we see her straining and struggling. And if it's one of these so-called gritty reality movies, then they're going to have this woman in various poses of obvious nudity, in which her femaleness that she's actually not showing, it's not hers, they're actually showing you something synthetic, as well as the pregnancy is heaving. You watch it moving and you actually feel transported into what is nothing but a false, fake, prosthetic, synthetic, carefully crafted, watch my fingers as I do quotations, birth experience. They make it as real as possible for you. Then 2 weeks later, the woman is back to 120 pounds because she was never carrying a baby. She's in Cannes, she's in London at the BAFTAs, she's everywhere else on the Oscar or the Emmy circuit, thin as a rail in expensive designer gowns, and is being asked about a pregnancy that she never carried. You're able to look at the fake pregnancy and get sucked into the moment, and it feels like that so-called baby fighting to come into the world. His so-called battered mom, maybe in the movie, has been fighting to bring him into the world. And then immediately when the spell is over, you're able to then snap back into your reality brain, see the woman skinny, know that she was carrying no baby. But then you can't marry these two worlds together. And you know what? Hollywood depends on that dissonance. Hollywood depends on you to forever keep the two minds separate, because in that position, you are the perfect candidate to continuously inhabit a lie. So I find it very odd that in the mere few days that I have been touching upon this grandiose, and very graphic, obscene lie that offends against God's design in creation, it is Eve herself. The irony, it is shaming, actually. It is women who have come to the forefront to defend a man's right to be a woman. It is women who have come to the forefront to fight for all their he-she heroes. It is females who are at the very front. I have a few questions. If you're going to use a neck, my neck is also skinny. My neck is also bony. Does your neck have a protruding Adam's apple in it? Because we surely know the difference between a trachea, which everybody has. Even a chicken has a trachea. That's when you go and get that trachea fried, they call it neck bones. They call it neck bones. So even a chicken has a trachea. But it's very disturbing when women cannot tell the difference between the presence of a trachea in the neck, no matter how bony your neck is that you're claiming, some of you, and the presence of an Adam's apple, which we can all see as soon as teenage boys start developing. As soon as teenage boys get that testosterone kicking in, then that is one of the things that start developing in the male. You probably won't see an Adam's apple in your little male baby, but as he begins his inevitable journey into manhood, that thing makes a sign. So it's very strange that everybody went through school, and I'm not expecting there to be a lot of 5th graders and 9th graders here watching these kinds of prophecies, but it seems that a lot of mature adult women don't know the difference between the trachea that's in all their necks, that is even in the neck of an older woman. When older women start to get older a little bit, they do start to have a little bit of a hollow here. And the difference between taking the trachea, which basically is a pipe, doctors call it the windpipe sometimes, shaving that thing down, because the top part of the trachea is where you will get the Adam's apple protruding. So here's the trachea here, and then you're going to get that Adam's apple kind of coming up like an unwanted, unsightly bump when these men who are not women begin to enter into the stages where they start to need the major surgeries. So something has to be done about this. And what they do is called shaving. They will shave it down for it to mimic as much as possible a normal, rounded female windpipe. But the problem with that is that for all of us, as age comes upon us, flesh, that is meat, as well as collagen and firmness begins to make its exit. That is just part of the normal process of aging. And so when this stuff begins to make its exit, as well as there come a large influx of testosterone into these men. Women, have you ever heard of this thing called perimenopause and menopause? Perimenopause and menopause are what we call in the female life the change. So when women start to go into the change, their estrogen begins to go haywire, causing changes in the body, such as the hot flashes, such as increased irritability. Sometimes a woman's desire for intimacy with her husband will decrease. All those things, women are experts in those things. But then because women have never actually been in the bodies of the men that they're defending, women usually don't know that men experience what is known as, in some circles, as a testosterone dump. That's what men go through when they're starting to age. In a normal man, one of the things that testosterone dump will do is that his so-called drive will go into overdrive. You will start to find that men, instead of getting tired like women do as they age for the urge for intimacy, that is when husbands are most at risk at wanting a pretty young thing. Because they and their wife are out of sync at that particular time of life. And part of the thing that the testosterone dump will do is make a man randy. But another thing is that it will grossly change his features. So if you are a man who has gone through puberty blockers, for instance, the modern trans nowadays, they're not hiding the use of puberty blockers. You can see the effeminates walking around in our society. You can see them easily without the need for Celestial to point you to where their YouTube channels are. You can see them. And when you see them, they look exactly like women. They look like women. They sound like women. They're soft like women. They're pretty like women. They've grown out their hair. They don't have any male angled jaw. So you can see, I will continue to defend God in this matter. You have two eyes and you have a thinking mindset. And you can see the success of the modern day trans. You can see them in our midst. But somehow you cannot marry the evidence that indeed we do have men who look just like women walking around among us, and they're not hiding it. They're not trying to deny it. They're actually sitting on their YouTube channels explaining the process to a whole wave of men who are standing in line, waiting for medical clearance, waiting for their medical aid to come through and approve their use of hormones so they can start growing their breasts, so they can start experiencing their collagen influx. The collagen influx and the estrogen influx is what actually takes a little girl through her puberty and starts to bloom her into a maiden and then a young woman. So there's a ton of men that you can see with your eyes now as the trans debate is raging in the United States, because it's not really raging anywhere else but here, because this is the land of all final sicknesses. So you see the men lining up to get access to the things that medical science agrees can bring about the female beautifying process. So it's not exclusive to us then. Through the use of synthetic drugs, we see many, many men in our midst beautifying themselves into beautiful men who sit publicly stating that there are men. So you can see that it's possible. The only part that you keep ruling out is that it's not possible because a bunch of transgenders and transsexuals did it decades ago without disclosing the process. So because the process was hidden, the process was secret, the process was centuries old, the process used craft. It prospered by craft. It hid its hand. It threw a rock and then hid its hand and said, "Not me, not me. I don't know why the outside window is broken. I see that a rock was thrown, but it was not me." So in this modern day, with all the information that God has available to you, it is easier to deny the information of your eyes, the information of your ears, or even to spend 5 minutes in prayer to say, "Lord, reveal this thing to me, because this thing is hitting me right here in my forebrain. It's hitting me right here in my skull, and it's so difficult for me to understand." It's mostly women who are denying that the men are women. It is mostly women who are greatly strengthening these cosplaying men in their position. So you're a woman, but you want to protect a man in your position. You want to keep him safe in your position that he's sitting in, and you are oblivious to the harm it's causing because he can only do so much with the blooming flower of youth, with collagen, with carefully edited photos. All you've seen are photographs And then you don't know something that I shared long ago in the Alien series, where I said that my own father said to me that when you see something in the United States, when you see it on American TV, they've already had it for 50 years or more. So that means that the technology to edit photos, just because it's now coming to you, right? The photo editor and Adobe Photoshop, maybe they just dropped it 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I've never used it, so I don't know how old Photoshop is. I don't know how much Corel Draw, how long ago things like Corel Draw came into the market, because I don't use those things in my line of work. But then you're acting like because they hit the market now, that Hollywood wasn't using it to green screen your reality, to scrub clean your reality. You're acting like the Playboy covers that you lusted over as young men, or the so-called female pinups that you lusted over and you emulated and you desired to be like as young women. You're acting like those images came to you raw and fresh, au naturel, because you cannot understand that you are the actual last rung of usability, the last rung of the ladder. When you get a camera, you're the last one to have it. The government has been playing with it for 50 years. When you get a cell phone, a personal computer, when it comes to mass use, the public is the last one to handle the tools of deception. But the thing that Siri and Alexa have got you drunk now. They're in your hands now. You can't be fooled now, even though you've been fooled your entire life. And the smallest mercy, the tiniest mercy that God is offering to people, whether you're saved or unsaved. It's amazing how it's the unsaved women on TikTok who know all about the trans. This dichotomy is truly spinning me out of orbit. So it's the unsaved women. I put up a post of Jamie Lee Curtis, and the post is 90% unsaved women going, I knew this in the 60s. I took one look at him in, what is it? True Lies. And I knew that was a man. I knew that no matter how sexy they tried to portray him in that movie. I've seen people saying things like Arnold Schwarzenegger was kissing a man and he knew it. Arnold Schwarzenegger had some movie where he wore a baby bump. He wore a moon bump. I don't know what movie this is, but clearly the unsaved women. So the unsaved women have an eye that is unclouded by deception, lies, the need to raise men up as icons, tennis icons, gymnast icons, swimming icons, Charlie's Angels icons. So the unsaved women, for some reason, maybe because they're not burdened with the cloud that comes into the mind when Christianity comes into the mind. I don't even understand that cloud myself. The way that Christians can lie to themselves, the way that Christians have a natural eye that God gave them that will see something. A Christian will observe something. A Christian will clock something. And then there's this programming from church that comes in and says, you didn't see that. Jesus wouldn't want you to see that. Jesus would never see that, because Jesus's eyes are constantly looking upward towards himself. He sees nothing because he's too holy to look at reality. Christian will see something and deny that they see something. And then a Christian like me, Christian 2.0, will come and say, this is what God says. God says this and that and that, and you can observe it in this and that and that. And then the comments will flood. You know, I kind of saw something. It was off, but then I shook it off. Why did you shake it off? Why did you shake off the truth? How come the truth doesn't have a double-handed grip on you? Why are we shaking off truth in the church? Isn't church the home of truth? Isn't church where a praying grandmother on her knees, if God reveals to you that the bishop standing on the stage is gay, then that's what God has revealed to you. You are not supposed to shush God. You are not supposed to say, get behind me, devil, and start praying even stronger for the bishop. You are supposed to realize that God is showing you a massive subterfuge that is taking place, and that you should be very careful if you have any young boys in that ministry, because that's how they'll end up at sleepaway camp at New Birth Church. Why is it that God brings truth into the midst and then the truth is shushed? But in the unsaved people, exactly as the Bible says, for the sons of the world are wiser than the sons of God. This is an undefeated truth in Christianity. It's the unsaved women who are saying, look at the T clavicle on that guy. Look at the shape of that man. Some of the men are asking, are you sure? And the women are telling the men. So the women bless their unsaved souls at this point in time. So the unsaved women are the ones who are informing the stunned men on my TikTok how to spot a woman. which means that the unsaved women, when they're bathing themselves, are also not gaslighting themselves. When they're dressing themselves, when they go into Nordstrom's and Macy's and wherever they shop, and they look for clothing that suits the female form, the unsaved women are laboring under no confusion and no illusions as to what a woman looks like. But then the Christian women who say that they have the mind of Christ, they say they have discernment, they're the ones fighting that those two built house Black American tennis pros, tennis stars who have taken all the medals from the real women, they're the ones fighting that those are women. And here's the truth. You're not fighting that those are women because your eyes are telling you those are women. You're fighting that those are women because you don't want to be left without something to look up to. We're going to talk about the collapse of reality. That's why this particular version of the Beautiful Men of America, which I will simply call Part 4, Prospering by Craft, I'm going to show you here with the help of the Holy Spirit how easy it is to bring subterfuge and craft into a people who are willing to be lied to. Remember, the fundamental premise of this particular type of revelation, which is coupled with prophecy, because the prophecy attached to the Beautiful Men of America is basically that we're going to lose the battle of sexuality. I've been bringing that prophecy here since, I would just pin it at 2022, because that is where most of the prophecies concerning aberrant sexuality, broken sexuality, twisted sexuality in America, it's 2022, Celestial's personal year of trauma. Learning things, seeing things, dreaming things, and God just point blank telling me things in my face. This is what it is. You need to understand this. You need to come up. God says that we're going to lose the battle for sexuality in this country because America's judgment is that she is a reprobate nation. But if we fight God and we say that we are not reprobate, look around us. We have morals. We have churches. Yeah, but not for long. Not for long. How can you have churches that can operate when your apostles, Apostle Catherine Crick is a whole dude? That's a whole man. That's a male man. That's the malest of the men. According to what picture or what clip you watch of her, you can actually see that it's a man in superb drag. And not only that, but there is a female double. Some of the clips you look and you can see that's a real woman. And then you look again and you will clearly see the exact kind of trans man who was not successful. There are some men who are not successful at transing. They're simply not able to make the transition smoothly. I guess that's just where we find Galatians chapter 6 and verse 9, which is that God cannot be mocked. You simply cannot come and play with biology and think you will be successful at it. The more trained your eye is, the more you will be able to see the man, no matter what he does. This part, it's not by, there are trans who go beyond the clavicles. They go beyond the Q angle of the hips. Men have forward-facing pelvises, and women's pelvis, I was trying to explain to a friend recently, is almost like a bucket seat. And the reason that we have that tilting pelvis is because it's fine when you're walking, but once you start to get the baby, that pelvis tilts right under their little selves like a bucket seat. Even the way the abs form. When men get a six-pack, men's six-pack to six-pack side to side, men's six-pack right across. They're able to build a solid wall of muscle. When you look at the female six-pack will almost form little ice cubes resting one upon another. Why? It's the best you can do with a receptacle that is going to be able to poof out unexpectedly when it's time to have a baby. It is amazing how this flat tummy, when it is ready, when it has received Adamic seed, Eve will poof out very marvelously, and all that six-packery is going to go away. That's why we don't have tight bands of muscle. So you're sitting here, the American relay team, the American US team, you watch them running, as that young singer said, it's just wall to wall. It's just wall to wall muscle. But then you will come and fight. Why are you fighting? You're not fighting because your eyes are unable to see the evidence. You're fighting because you are terrified of having nothing. You're terrified of being robbed of everything that you can compare yourself to as a woman, that you can look up to as a woman, and that you can desire and lust after as a man. There are many taglines here at the Master's Voice. The primary tagline of this ministry is the Master's Voice End Times Prophecy blog. Tagline is "Hear the words of the Lord." But one of the taglines that I've used on Facebook for a very long time is "Do the work, do the word." Do the work, do the word. That means carry out all functional tasks that you should do. Seek after your own salvation and work it out with much fear and the appropriate trembling. Do not be deceived. Jesus Christ told us. Let's see to it that no man deceive you. Love God above all things. All of that is the word. The work is the means by which you will carry it out. That means that as long as you are listening to a single video from this ministry, the one trait that is going to die inside anybody who stays here for a long time is laziness. If I had to pick one word, it will be laziness. You're not going to be lazy here. You're not going to be entitled here. You're not going to have tantrums here. None of that is going to wash. None of that is going to be able to stay with you for a long time. If you try to cling to those traits, you will find strong waves of truth just washing you right out. You will be washed right out like the little spider that could not hold his own inside the water spout. The song says that the spider, the itsy bitsy spider, was inside the water spout, and that guy thought he was going somewhere. But it says that the rain came down and washed the spider out. So he was just politely excused through the same water spout that he came into. Many spiders are in the spout, but I'm telling you, the things that God has in store for us, the things that I have not yet covered, it's just going to be a storm drain tsunami washing many spiders out. The serious spiders, I know that they have their rappel gear on. They've got click claws on the spout, and they are making sure that they're not getting washed out no matter what. Do the word, do the work. All of that is your responsibility. It's not Pastor Boyd's responsibility. It's not Sister Hendrick's responsibility. It is not Deaconess Pemberton. Even when she is promoted from sister to deaconess, it's not her job. It is your job to secure your soul and make sure that you are clinging to the mountainside that is Jesus Christ. You're not clinging to Sidney McLaughlin who? You're not clinging to Venus who? Serena who? Simone who? Farrah Fawcett who? James Lee Curtis who? None of them. You're not clinging to the beautiful men of America, because how pitiful if your identity as a female is clinging to a man. How pitiful if the style advice that you have followed since the 60s was taught to you by a man. Do big blush, do big bold rouge, darling. Why? Because he needs to cover those blade cut man cheeks. As I said, the Kardashians have people out here like straight clowns these days. And why? That is what they need. They need the BBLs to grant shape. You see, the other one, cut like the side of a mountain, has miraculously disappeared. That 6-foot child, Chloe, just miraculously disappeared. I think in 2018, 2019, came back as a small, petite blonde. And I said, Lord, do these people think that we are lacking the mental faculties? They think that we have enough brain cells left to go to jobs and pay taxes. And then we will not notice that this sister that was always towering over the other sisters suddenly went away for a while and came back and then told us, oh no, I had a bit of work done. The face is different. The bone structure is different. People dragged that woman, but eventually they gave up. They dragged her, trying to make her confess. And she kept saying, no, I admit I had a bit of surgery done. And people said, no amount of face surgery will chop off inches from your frame. Where did the rest of you go? You're not the same person. So we're living in America, and people will not accept that we're in a land where doubles play roles. We're in a land where doubles play roles. You do not know that at the high elite level, one person is popping off stage and another person is popping in stage. You think that it's only Mr. Macron's wife who can do that. You think it's only Mr. Macron's wife whose brother will pop off into disappearance and then Mr. Macron himself pops in as a woman. You think that's a French problem. You think here in America, with the overarching Hollywood that we have, you think that Hollywood wouldn't dare step off the set, off the soundstage, and come to us live and direct through documentaries, through this is my story. Then you see the celebrities coming out with their story. I was so much troubled. I lost my first child. So you're going to sit here, right? I'm younger than some of you, older than some, younger than some. So we're all going to sit here in this room of deception, and we're not going to count how many female celebrities all have lost their first baby. There's something that I studied in school. I wasn't the best at it, okay? This subject was fighting me with bear claws, but I tried my best with it. It's called statistics. And in statistics, there's something that I learned of called standard deviation. Standard deviation is when you do the math and then some piece of the math, when you do the graph, a piece of it always goes off that way. It always goes off that way, like an abnormality. And if I'm remembering correctly, the standard deviation is actually showing you the presence of what is different from the rest. So if they give you numbers, they give you a bunch of numbers, 30 numbers, and they say plot the numbers on the graph. So you plotting the numbers, you go up and then you sideways and you plot it there, you plot it there, you plot it there. Then after a while, always a pattern emerges. Let's go into it because I never plan these things, I never write them down. But the Holy Spirit, he listeth where he wills, and I'm going right behind him because I'm linked to him as much as possible. So they'll give you a bunch of coordinates, right? And you go 3 up, 2 across here, 5 up, 1 across here, and you plot the vectors. And then after a while, when you step back from your graph, you're going to notice something like a smattering of insects, a smattering of flies. And that grouping that is usually up here in this one corner represents the norm. But then some of the coordinates are 19 up, 53 across. So a few of them go off like that. And usually if the problem has been done right, you will see most of them here. And then something like a line that goes that way. And you can plot that line, and that line is supposed to at least show you the standard deviation. If you're an American, I would like to let you know that the upper echelons, where the very, 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 very wealthy people who like to wear their sweaters over their shoulders are, they represent in their midst high quality standard deviations. In their midst, people like Bill Gates, whose daughter I showed you is straight as a hot dog with a very, very strong male gaze. We will talk about the male gaze. I will just try to remember everything that I said we will talk about. The male gaze is hauntingly strong. The male gaze is why when the actual male shows up on TV and stares at the camera, everyone is like, I wish I hadn't gotten married so fast. The male gaze, I was telling my intercessor, is created by God to cause that effect. We are not animals. We are far, far above the animals. But God has given us things that will call and attract the opposite of the species to us. The male gaze is one of the most powerful arrows that they have in their hunting quiver. And the female gaze also is what is given to God for her, given by God to her, for her to attract her male to her. The male gaze is something else. We usually call it smoldering. We don't say that ladies smolder, but when those men gaze out at you from underneath their ridged eyebrows, a man's eyes are usually set back deeper in the head so that their brows, both the brow bone and the eyebrows, can be more prominent. Then they turn the gaze on you. Then the gaze begins to do its God-given, approved, heaven-approved work. But now we're in a world where the males are gazing out with their God-given, heaven non-approved stare from a female outside. And when men look at that, men are perceiving female, and therefore the gaze is therefore deadly upon normal straight men. The female is gazing into the male gaze, and it's having its effect on her. I just love her. I love her. Me too. So you just love her, but you're not lesbian towards her. Why? Because you're also perceiving a female outside. So then the outside is definitely prospering by craft. Craft is high-level deceit. I've covered it here. If I've covered it in one video, I've covered it in 10. Craft. Prospering by craft. That is deception. That is sleight of hand. So then what do? When the reality you inhabit, the environment that you inhabit, the life that you're living in is actually made up of craft. What happens when Hollywood is bold enough, with the help of the richest at the top, for even the government is formed season after season and time after time by those who have been pre-selected years in advance. These people are pre-selected years in advance. They share similar childhoods. They play with each other, and they are listed one after another in line for the so-called, you think, freely elected presidency. What are you going to do when those who make the mystery, those who make the movies, those who make the drama, collude with those at the top and bring into perfect cohesive operation a reality that steps neatly off the soundstage, neatly off the movie set, and comes right into your reality? America, I propose to you this. You love reality TV? You're in the biggest reality show of your life. It's not a mistake that I brought a few weeks ago, that I brought an introduction specifically talking about the Truman Show, where Truman was being watched by millions of people in a life that he thought was real. And his life was not real. Every single person in Truman's life was an actor. Those of you who have seen the Truman Show, and even those of you who haven't, make sure that you watch that movie. It will open your eyes, and it will make you understand a lot of things about U.S. society that you may not understand. How do you think Truman felt when Truman came to the understanding that not one single person, not even his own mother, his mother gave birth to him on live TV. She signed a contract that said that from birth, her baby boy could be a social experiment. How do you think Truman felt? Decades of friendships, decades of play dates, decades of real dates, falling in love with girls who said, I love you, Truman, on cue, because they were being paid to do so. Falling in love with girls who broke up with him on cue because they were being told, we need a bit of a drama arc, and we also need to see how Truman reacts to disappointment and loss. Have you thought deeply about how odd it would be if the Truman Show audience was watching Truman, and then there was a third layer of people watching them? Wouldn't that be hideous? Wouldn't that be hideous if Truman wasn't the only one being watched? If the audience were watching Truman and the audience was being watched by someone else, and that someone else simply wanted the enjoyment of seeing how the audience would react to Truman. That is you out there who keep defending this hidden transmogrification in society. That is how it feels for them who really know reality to watch you. So they've been watching you watch Truman, and then God sends Celestial to now expose Truman, and now they're watching you fight for Truman. Truman is real. Truman's life is real. Truman's life is not a lie, even though you've been watching Truman's entire life be a lie. And that's why you don't understand how angry God is. That we've been made guinea pig experiments. That's why you can't connect with God, because you have less in common with God and everything in common with Truman. You want Truman to win. You want Truman to keep their little big glass plates that they won by powering testosterone against women who tried to play against them. You want Truman to take all the medals at Paris, all the medals coming up in 2028, all the medals forever. You want Truman to be a real girl, even though God's trying his hardest to tell you that Truman is not. To those who are coming out of the lies of Mystery Babylon, come out. To those who are staying in, let me know your address so I can send you a pillow. You might as well be comfortable if you're going to stay asleep. We're going to look at 3 scriptures here. One of them is Daniel chapter 8 and verse 23. The other one is Daniel chapter 9 and verse 27. And the third one is Jeremiah chapter 9, verses 5 to 6. And so let's start in the book of Jeremiah, since it comes before Daniel. Jeremiah chapter 9. I'm going to read you just verse 1 and 2 for context, okay? So, excuse me, please. Jeremiah is in the midst of having a very painful moment of realization, okay? Jeremiah is still early on in his ministry. God has called him. God has laid a very heavy charge on this young man. And God has already started to tell him things from the very first beginning of Jeremiah. You can see that the minute God called Jeremiah and told him, stand up, arise, and show yourself to the people, he immediately began to speak very strong words concerning the unfaithfulness of the nation, how the nation acts like a wild donkey that just goes out when she's in heat and couples with every false god, every false idol. God uses such strong words that very soon Jeremiah's young soul is fainting. And then we come to chapter 9, and I'm going to read you how the prophet is feeling as he watches a people who have already started to strongly deny that what Jeremiah is telling them is true. So it took them no time to reject the prophecies, to say that it's not true. What is Jeremiah talking about? And leave us alone with all that. Verse 1 and verse 2. Oh, that my head were waters and my eyes a fountain of tears, that I might weep day and night for the slain of the daughter of my people. Oh, that I had in the wilderness a lodging place for travelers, that I might leave my people and go from them, for they are all adulterers, an assembly of treacherous men. And so the prophet here is saying that he's finding himself in a very morose, depressed, and highly lamenting states. He's saying that if his tears could be numbered, his whole head would have to be called a fountain because of how much water is pouring out of his eyes. And he's saying that he's crying for the dead. But the problem here is that nobody is dead yet. Nobody's dead yet. It is only towards the end where you see that God will let the Babylonians breach the wall, kill many of them. They manage to seal the wall up, and then a second breach will occur. And at that second breach, they will slaughter even more of them in the city, and then they will march them naked in their skin as captives to Babylon and basically rout the whole place. But then this man is saying here that he's crying for the dead. So obviously it's the dead that he can see are coming. Jeremiah had the same problem that I have, which is that I speak to people about how many will be slaughtered here in the United States for their hard-heartedness, for how they disbelieve the prophecies of God, for how they mock the prophecies of God, and they try to trample them under their feet. And this man is crying because he's already seen the devastation. He's already seen the death. He already basically knows where the hard-heartedness is leading. He knows where the rejection and the mockery is leading. And it's making him despair, because there's nothing quite as painful as telling people that they're going to kill your children. They're going to capture you and take you to Russia. And then the people said, have you seen the Marines? And have you seen the Coast Guard? And have you seen the Navy? And have you seen me? So he's crying because he says he can see the slain of the daughter of his people. And then he says, I wish I had a place in the wilderness. So I wish there was a way for me to separate from these people and go out from among them, so at least I don't have to watch them be destroyed, because they're all adulterers, meaning that they're not faithful to God. He's not calling everybody a sexual adulterer. He's saying that the mass of them have departed from what is true and godly worship, and they are nothing but an assembly of treacherous men. Treacherous men are men who will change on you at the last minute and stab you in the back and watch you bleed out and tell you, well, it's your fault. That's what treachery is. Treachery is being stabbed in the back. Treachery is gross disappointment. Treachery is exactly what you thought you could depend on, snapping at the last moment and proving that the last thing that you ever should have done was depend on what you thought you could depend on. And now he comes down. I'll come down to read you the part here. He says, everyone will deceive his neighbor and will not speak the truth. They have taught their tongues to speak lies. They weary themselves to commit iniquity. Your dwelling place is in the midst of deceit. Through deceit, they refuse to know me, says the Lord. So then look at the shift in the narrative. Verses 1 and 2, the prophet is speaking about himself. He's speaking on his own behalf. He's speaking out of his human spirit to those who think that a person is supposed to deliver God's prophetic words like some kind of AI robot and say nothing else besides exactly those words. How odd. So Jeremiah is talking about how painful the work is for him, how difficult it is to prophesy to a people who God is always showing him as dead anyway, and not just emotionally dead, spiritually dead. No, this is physical death. And then all of a sudden he's speaking and he says that everyone will practice deception with the neighbor. Where? in this society of people. So everyone will be lying to everyone. Everyone will be deceiving everyone. He says that their tongues have been taught to speak lies. Now, if you're speaking about a whole society, is it only the people who lie who speak lies? Is it only the one who is technically saying, I, a man, am actually a woman? Is he the only liar? No. Everyone who participates in the lie, everyone who helps him with the hormone blockers, every doctor who does the surgery is also speaking lies. They are taking their part in the lies. But then even the end user of the lie, the one who is being fooled, is participating in a lie. In the first video, I clearly went through what a lie is like. And I said that you do not need to have the knowledge of a lie to participate in it. And this is why lies are very dangerous. A woman who goes outside and cheats on her husband and has an affair and gets pregnant and comes and lays with him right after repeatedly so that she can say, don't you remember that time? It was like our honeymoon. We were so warm and hot and heavy with one another. That's what she's going to tell him when this baby comes into the house. And she's also going to be praying that the baby at least looks like her so she can pass it off and say, my twin, my twin. And if the baby does come looking like her, that man is in for 18 years of raising a baby that's not his. There are men who have raised other people's children without knowing. There are men who have raised other people's children and they knew, and God bless those men because children need dads. But there are many men in so-called relationships of fidelity who have raised outside babies. That baby right now is playing college football somewhere. That baby right now is running a hedge fund, and that's not your child, sir. You were a participant to a lie without knowing. And I'm sure there are many men who are hearing this right now, knowing it is true and feeling a particular type of pain that I hope that God will heal for you. You can easily be made to participate in a lie completely without your knowledge, completely without knowing what is going on. The only way that you will be set free from the tyranny of that lie is, I guess, in the case of the child, when you go and do a DNA test and you find out that was never your baby. I saw a TikTok of a man who was in his 70s who became so frustrated with his wife that he demanded paternity tests. And all his children who were grown and gone out of their house in their 40s, none of them turned out to be his children. And this man was so upset that all he could say was, I knew those kids were too ugly to be mine. Anyway, that's all he could say. He couldn't get anything back. He had worked his body to the bone. He had been a good husband, a faithful husband. He had done the time, gone to work, paid for the college, paid for everything. And that woman brought not one, but 4 children to that man. And then when the children left, I guess she started acting up and he got so sick of it. I don't know what possessed that man, but he had all his kids tested and none of them were his. Old man, 70s, 80s. Lies can be very bitter. And the one person who will never cover a lie is God. God will never cover a lie. God will never allow a lie to prosper. The Bible said, I've read it for you in Proverbs, is that what? True words will stand the test of time, but a lie must be. This is a command. A lie must be exposed. That means every lie has an expiry date. And it's very easy to see when the expiry date of a nation's lies come. All of a sudden, life outside, social life outside becomes very weird. All kinds of things start bubbling out of the inside of people. You can tell when the heat underneath a nation has been turned up spiritually because people will begin to give voice to everything which is true. It's almost like they're on a timer. It's almost like they're being compelled. People will just start making confessions and saying things and saying things and saying things. And God also, as the leader of this nation, whether anyone actually thinks he deserves it or not, he is the leader and owner of this whole thing. God is going to lead the way in tearing down and exposing lies. So it's not just the speaker of the lies that Jeremiah is speaking about here. It's also the one who hears and participates in the lie. The one who wants to prop up the lie. The one who wants to say, I have questions and I have concerns because my neck is the same. You women that do this, you know very good and well that if someone walked up to you and told you that you look like a man, you would burst into tears and start insulting that person. You would feel so stripped of something that you don't even know that you have, which is precious. It's amazing why you need to gaslight yourself and lie to yourself. So because your neck is a bit skinny, you don't actually know all the other features that go with a man because you're only looking at the neck. You think I'm sitting here and I'm making hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of footage to bring God's people to fish them up because my hands are too small. So I'm literally just trying to use buckets and drums to fish them out of the lies. And then you think that you will come and you will destabilize this work talking about your neck that nobody actually can see and cares about. The only person who cares about your neck versus a trans neck is you. If you're not able to tell the difference, well, then the both of you, good day, sirs. It's as simple as that. If you're not able to take hold, I'm holding the hot part of the pot and I'm turning it around and handing you the handle, which is not hot, and telling you, take a hold of this handle so that you can take this boiling pot off the stove. You're doing nothing. You have nothing to lose, but to actually open your eyes and stop being so dissonant, so gaslighting, and so much of a participant in the lie that you will not even do the minor work of a Berean to go and see if the things I say be so. Then all I can say is good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to you, sir. If your neck matches any neck that you have seen, and you're not able to add up all the other features, the gaze, the clavicles, the stance, this size, the gargantuan hands and feet, then may you and your brothers in the pictures prosper. Because the truth is that many of you women, you know better. You know better, but like I said, there are internal things driving your speech, and you're afraid to look at those internal things. So it's quick to externalize and say, that's not true, that's not so, because I saw her give birth. She has 2 children. No, she has 2 people in the house that she's currently feeding. Remember, people like Charlize Theron and Sandra Bullock, they simply go outside and they buy babies. They purchase their families. You just can't consider that purchased families can take place quietly. Stomachs can fold in front of you on international interviews, but who cares about that when mother is in the building? Back to Jeremiah. Jeremiah says that they just won't speak the truth. And the reason they can't speak the truth is because they literally have trained their tongues to speak lies. And he says they tire themselves out committing iniquity. Do you know what it is when you're being condemned in the words of God to say that this is a nation that wears itself out doing sin? Everybody thinks, oh, it must be the crime. It must be the mayors that are stealing money. It's the elites. It's the elites. Please always remember that when you are at your home fornicating, the elites actually have nothing to do with that. They do not. When you're buying your little implements from China to abuse your physical body with, the elites are doing nothing. That's going through Klarna and Afterpay to satiate your lust. Elites aren't there. They're busy plotting master craftsman evil. All the petty evil at the bottom, that's the people. So God is saying through his prophet that the nation is tiring itself out. Do you know what it means to work so hard for a lie, to work so hard for sin that God says you go at home at the end of the day and you're like, whew, like you worked a 12-hour shift? So all the effort, all the noise on the internet, all the comments, 16 comments, I saw her in this, and then she had this, and I think you're just lying. I think it's just jealousy. What a shame that another Black woman needs to do this. So you do all that, and then you lay down and you're worn out in your spirit, propping up something that God is going to crush anyway. God is going to expose all this. If you think that the furthest, please let me help you. If you think the furthest that the Heavenly Father will go is actually using me, and then there will be nothing, you mean nothing? When in the Bible did you ever see the prophet say something and then we watched for the fulfillment and nothing came? Do you really think that the reason I'm sitting here is to read out some Bible verses to show that I know how to read and express them, read out some messages from the tablet, go through my old notebooks, cover everything, and then say, until I see you again, goodbye. And then the matter is closed. When I make a video, a case has been opened. Lawyers, you know. A new docket, a fresh docket has just been opened. The accused has been named, the crime has been named, and what we're waiting for now is trial, sentencing, and judgment. That is what's happening here. Every fresh video is an indictment either against a person, persons, the institution of the church, the institution of the United States, the institution of any nation that God tells me to speak to. We are opening a fresh docket. Accused name. We fill that in. Accuser's name, always Jesus Christ. That part, it just comes stamped on every docket. What are the crimes? What are the charges? I read them out in the video. Then I just the city bailiff, just the typist in the courtroom. Then I say, until I see you again, then I leave. That fresh docket, it goes up and it's now sitting before the eternal judge of all flesh. There will most certainly be a trial. There will most certainly be sentencing. And after that, a judgment. Never, ever forget that when you're fighting for your lives in the comments. God bless you. And so they tire themselves, they weary themselves to commit iniquity. And now here's the clincher. Your dwelling place is in the midst of deceit. Through deceit, they refuse to know me, says the Lord. This is very painful. This is very painful. So God is not saying through the fact that they had no shepherds, they could not know me. He's not saying through the fact that they tended to sleep in late, jump up, rush to work, come back, long commute, tired, feed the kids, play with the kids, put the kids to bed, kiss each other, good night, honey. He didn't say through the busyness of schedules. He said they live, their dwelling place is in the midst of deceit. Deceit is one of the higher quality lies. The word deceit and the word craft, they hang around the same airspace. They're both forms of lies, but when you just say, he lied to me, he lied to me. Sometimes people just lie impulsively. They lie sometimes to protect themselves. They lie, it wasn't me, and then it really was them, but they're so afraid maybe of losing their job. They're so afraid of maybe the girlfriend didn't understand what happened back there with my ex. It's not what you think. People lie to protect all manner of things. But once you say deceit, once you say craft, no. We're talking board meetings. We're talking about there's a secret WhatsApp thread. There's many Zoom meetings. There's a whole Slack thread with everybody crossing out their deliverables. It is impossible for deceit to take place without intention. Deceit, craft, those are lies that take place with intention. So then again, we're adding another wall to this house that is collapsing around many people. What happens when your self-identity, imagine yourself a ball, one of these springy balls, the kind, the small ones that people squeeze for stress, but also you can bounce it against the wall, bounce it against the floor. It's got so much good give that it always comes right back to your hand like a trusty friend. That's your self-identity. Your self-identity doesn't exist in a vacuum. Your self-identity exists within a construct. For the construct, you can simply look at the house around me that you can see. A roof up top, 2 walls on the side. So now this thing called your self-identity, you bounce it against the wall. I'm a man. I'm a male. I'm a guy. The environment feeds back to you what the self-identity is telling you. Your birth certificate tells you that you're a man. The shape of your body tells you that you're a man. When you go out in society, you bounce your maleness against the wall, and society, if it was normal, is supposed to bounce back to you. I see you, sir. You are indeed a man. But if you live in a feminist-heavy society, when you bounce what is man against the wall, you get a barrage of insults. You get a barrage of stuff like that. If you are a woman and you go outside and you bounce I'm a female against the wall, a healthy society will reflect back to you, you're pretty. You are a woman. We appreciate you. Mom, wife, mother, lady. You are a woman. A healthy society. But then if you live in a misogynist society, when you bounce I am woman against the wall, you'll get back gold digger. You'll get back the B word. You will get back the gardening implement. You'll get back a lot of words that don't affirm what this ball, which you were from the day you were born, either male or female, is telling you. So now let's imagine what happens when the construct around you is all lies. What happens when the government that is part of the construct around you is actually hunting your soul like wild deer? Take this, we're bringing this, we're trying to bring back to normal, we're all in this together, just, you need 3 more. Okay, so what happens when the government actually is opposition number 1? Is there safety within that construct? If the construct is not safe, are you wise as the ball to continue bouncing yourself against a hunter and saying, that's my government, that's the FDA, they trust the drugs, I don't care about the mesothelioma ads. That was a mistake. Oh, the mesh ads? Mistake. I'll keep trusting them because they're a wall. I need something to bounce myself against. What happens when you can't trust your doctor? What happens when you can't trust your leaders? What happens when the apostles are trans? What are you bouncing yourself against? Deceit. Deceit. How complete is the deceit? Let's hear from Jesus. Let's hear from the Lord's book. Your dwelling place is in the midst of deceit. So you're not at the edge of deceit. You're not at the edge of deceit. You're in the middle of it. That means if we think of a kiddie pool, or we even extrapolate it to the really big, tall pools that the adults like to jump into, you're right in the center of the plunge pool of the lies, which is not necessarily a good place to be. It means that unless you're a real good swimmer and you can get to one of the edges where you can go, you're in a dangerous place. You're right in the center, sinking like a rock and taking on water with every second. Through deceit, they refuse to know me. And so there's the indictment right there. This is where we were coming to all along. So God is not saying, oh, it's because of this and that. God is saying because they are surrounded by a media they can't trust. They're surrounded by a cross-dressing culture long hidden from them, hidden so well, hidden so skillfully that when the time for the cross-dressing culture has come to be exposed, I don't even know if you can notice that the people behind the cross-dressing culture are trying to ease you into it. Go on the internet and simply put celebrities opposite gender. Switch to photos. Don't bother looking at the written results. Switch to images. You know what you're going to see? You're going to see a ton of AI generated images that say, what if Michael B. Jordan was a woman? And then you'll see the male Michael B. Jordan, the actor, and then you'll see a female AI generated image that has put hair and a chest on him. What if Scarlett Johansson was a man? And then you'll see Scarlett Johansson, and then all of a sudden, I guess because maybe the AI is on payroll or at a higher thinking level, someone is trying to leak this truth into the mainstream. And why is that? Well, you're watching the right video for that because God gave me the Bible verses to explain it to us. They're trying to soft launch. I believe that's the kids' word nowadays, soft launch. They're trying to soft launch, which means to take small steps, getting to a big reveal. They're trying to soft launch the rise of the trans. We are in the era of trans. Publicly embraced androgyny. Is it a man? Is it a woman? Is it both? I showed you in the old footage that I still have much more of, and I'm going to bring it out for you. I showed you in the old footage that at the time that transsexuals were trying to carve their niche and trying to come into their own, when they would say to them, inevitably on the talk shows, they would always say to them, what are you? Are you a man? Are you a woman? They would always say, I am Octavia. Some would say, I'm not a man, but at the same time, I'm not a woman. I'm transsexual. They were picking up that identity as their ball to say, not quite man, not quite woman, a fusion of both. That is exactly what androgyny is. Androgyny is one of the earliest steps that we as a society, that we as an earth are going to take into the ultimate transhumanist movement. The transhumanist movement is going to come after this one has established itself, after it's had an amazing run, even bigger than Rainbow it's going to be. And then we'll get to that place where they say, why be human? Afraid of becoming a robot? Be both. Then they'll start giving us the AI voice boxes if that's what you want. The retina scanner eyes, if that's what you want. I covered all these things in 2021. You can go back and you can look. I have playlists for that, for the transhumanist agenda, for you to understand it better, where it's heading. The ultimate effrontery, the ultimate insult to God will be to take this thing that he has said, know ye not, that if you join your body to a harlot, know ye not that this is the temple of God. So he has staked his claim. He has said, this is my home. And then Satan will say, but don't you want a little robot in there so you can be able to answer your phone calls by tapping the side of your head? And we're going to implant the phone mic in your ear. So you can basically be driving and just go. Right now, you can answer a phone call by tapping the AirPods, right? You can tap the AirPod or tap the earbud and then it picks up the call. Well, you'll be tapping your head because the earbud will be inside your eardrums. Next level tech. Ye are gods. That's what Satan's been selling all along. That's always been the end goal. So every time people ask, why would God? Never ask, why would God? You should ask yourself, Lord, help me to understand. Help me to understand you. Never question God's motives because they are impeccable. And like he said, my ways are high above your ways, as high as the sky is above the earth. Never say, but why would God? God has a billion reasons. You just need to ask him if he would grant you the grace to understand 10. Because we're flesh and we don't understand him. And he's also working against an enemy who has got us fooled. And the enemy himself is not flesh. He's spirit. So two spirits working at a level above our heads. And then the flesh at the bottom constantly saying, I don't think this is God. He says, because they are living in the midst of lies, they refuse to know me. Do you hear that word refuse? What does refusing something mean? Celestial, can I get you anything? Oh, no, thank you. I'm fine, thank you. Yes, but everyone is having a meal now. I just want to make sure that you have something. No, I had something earlier. Thank you. I'm fine. Conscious decision, turning away what is offered. So he says that the reason his people are not getting to know him is because they live in the midst of deceit, and the deceit has entered them first. When deceit enters you first, what room do you think the Spirit of God will have? When the deceit gets into you and puffs up like yeast. I saw her children. Did you? Did you raise them? You took them to the park? You're the au pair that none of us knew you were? He says, deceit is the reason that they're refusing me. That means that what I've been saying here all along is actually factual. That people do love lies above truth. Jesus Christ is truth. Satan is the father of lies. People love the father of lies more than they love Jesus Christ. Then when you tell them, then they will say, no, I'm just being discerning. Discerning of what? How can you be discerning when you're in the midst of deceit and refusing to know God? People refuse to know God because when they hear God's truth, then they say, God would never say that. How do you know what he would say if you're choked with deceit? If the leaven is inside you until it's bulging out of your eyes and ears and on your tongue like an overgrowth of candida, how would you know what he would say if you refuse him because you already are hosting lies from the environment around you? And so that's what God is saying here. A people dwelling in the midst of deceit tend to take on the characteristics of deceit, tend to take on the defensiveness of the deceit. Always remember that the deceit is the reason why you defend your programming. How dare anyone tell you that the pinups of your childhood were men? It's pride. How can anyone tell you that you were in love with a man as a young man? Your pride simply won't let you allow it, because then if you do allow it, if you do humble yourself to accept that it was true, before you can even reach repentance, you will have to deal with the emotions of feeling disgusted, with the emotions of feeling quite angry at being tricked. And well, you should be, for you were tricked. Your pinups were men. And I told you that once they had achieved these good-looking bodies that could then be cleaned up with digital imagery, any bulges flattened. These people have been playing with Photoshop long before you ever saw it as a free Adobe add-on. Once that part could be handled, they couldn't wait to take all their clothes off and lay in front of you. And that was part of the trickery. That was part of the prospering. They were successful through craft. They were successful through the means that they used. They lied to you. They lied to you. And now the hurt is there that they lied to you. The rage is there that they lied to you. And you don't know where to put these things. You don't know that you're supposed to take them to Jesus and confess. I did do these things. I did have these thoughts concerning these men who are women. I did have these thoughts concerning these women who are actually men. I did have these thoughts. I did do these things. And I need help to traverse this new landscape. That's what humility is. A humble person can always be told that you were lied to. And they will say, wow, I can't believe that I was lied to. What do I do now? And then God will say, come into my counsel. Let me teach you so that you can actually become the living Christian that Jesus Christ is expecting out of Matthew 24:4. He says, take heed that no man deceive you. That means that make it your business that nobody can fool you again. But how can you make it your business that nobody can fool you again when we can't even tell you that you've been fooled the first time? You're fighting it. The Bony Neck Brigade is fighting for their lives. My neck matches that neck. That's okay, sir. You don't have to be upset. If you're not able to tell the difference between male and female biology, then we just have to accept that you are where you are. Because even trans people, they must come here and hear the truth. If you're a trans person, you haven't done any surgery. I'm strongly telling you, exactly as I told you in prophecy since, I did one that is called Trans Army, the Economy, and something else. Natural Disasters, Trans Army, and the Economy. I'll leave that. God was saying that transsexualism is mobilizing in this nation like an army. And I was calling out to people. I was also calling out to people in the Rainbow Prophecy that talks about trans. I was calling out to people in the prophecy that is called A Man Can Never Be a Woman. I was saying that you need to come back off of that ledge that Satan is trying to get you to dive off of. These strong emotions that you have are not actually what God wants for you to use to navigate your life. You were not put on earth to simply emote like a child. Children, they don't have the benefit of language. They don't have the benefit of self-control. That's fine. They're children. They emote strongly. They communicate strongly through their emotions. It's the wheelhouse that they come with pre-packaged. A baby doesn't have to speak a word. When he's hungry, he'll cry. When he's upset, he'll cry. When he's too hot, he'll cry. And you will figure out the different cries until you understand what his communication is. And when he gets language, then he'll be able to tell you more. But when you are an adult, you cannot live your life by saying, I feel like a woman. Yes, but biology in the mirror is telling you something different, which means that there is dichotomy. There is a difference. There is a breaking away from. And you need now Christ to help you to reconcile the mind and what the mind is telling you, what the mind is feeling, what the strong emotions are pumping out to you with what the existence of you is telling you. Remember the baby I just spoke about a minute? His maleness was evident before he ever had speech to talk and say, I'm a boy, I'm mommy's boy, I'm a big boy. Nobody would need the baby opening that diaper to communicate those things. His form, his etymology, his shape will tell us what his origin is. His origin is male. If the two halves have become split because of trauma, because of the culture, a lot of young people are going trans simply because their best friends are doing it. They don't want to be left out of what they think is a movement. Satan is surfing on the backs of your children, America. And you should not in any way, shape, or form sit out there and talk about, I want to be an ally to you at this time, Dustin. I want to figure out your journey and I'm going to read more books. No, you're going to be an ally to Jesus Christ and you're going to grapple Dustin and you're going to bring him back from the edge of becoming Melinda, which he is not. Because at the edge where he's becoming Melinda, judgment is awaiting. Remember that we're in the time of reading out the charges. After the charges comes the trial, the sentencing, and the judgment. You don't want Dustin caught up in that. You leave Bill Gates and his man kids to be caught up in that. It is as he deserves. You don't want your boy to be caught up in that. You don't want your girl to be caught up in that. You need to go outside, America, and you need to winch these children in. You know how to fish, but you don't know how to fish your kids. You don't know how to fish your husbands back from this thing. So this is what Jeremiah is saying. He's saying that the people tire themselves out to reinforce, produce, and then protect an environment of lies. They weary themselves in the midst of that environment doing evil. And then the dwelling place, like a pool, has surely filled up with the waters of deceit. And now the people are in the midst of that deceit, drinking it, drowning in it. And he says, because they are now full of the lies, when the Lord offers them his truth, they reject and refuse it. He says, they refuse to know me. And so that is the first one. And then we're going to come here briefly. Now, this is talking about the time of the rise of the evil king, beast system, Antichrist, one world ruler, one world system. And I was speaking earlier about standard deviation, and I was saying that after you add the dots like that, you will always find that some dots are going off like this. And when it comes to the higher powered areas, music industry, movie industry, this is these enclaves worldwide. You will see that they are very secluded and cut off from the rest. And it is inside those enclaves that a very high proportion of the dots are curving that way. Very shockingly high proportion. It's not all the dots. You can never say, oh, it's all of them. I see people saying it's all of them. Of course it's not. You can watch the movies and you can see one or two of the supporting actresses. You can see the woman. Very often it's the lead. They've been putting this androgyny in our faces for a very, very, very long time. I can strongly remember two that stood out. There was some movie a couple of years ago featuring Cate Blanchett dressing as male as she could. I mean, they used the CGI to make her face very angular and harsh. And then sure enough, in 10 seconds, you're watching the trailer, she's going to fall in love with a woman. And I looked at it and I remember saying out loud, wow, I know that one's going to clean up at the Oscars. It's going to clean up at the Oscars, because once it is homosexuality, you can trust this Yehuda mafia in this country that is running everything to just throw awards at it. There was another one where they used a black young man to completely turn him into the sodomite of sodomites. The trailer for that, I think the movie is called Moonlight or Moonshine. That's one of them. Again, I saw the trailer. I was like, what? 11 awards, because now they're using the minority to bring all the fans in to say that it's normal, and the harsh, gritty life that the boy is going to have. You can tell all these things from the trailer. I remember the exact time that I told myself that these people would never get my pennies. It was when they took that man with a trembling face, Eddie Redmayne. And then they said, you can see it in the trailer, right? So he's a married man, and then he wants to dress up, and I think in the trailer his wife catches him, and then she comes in tenderly to help him in his transformation to Bethula or whatever that he was going to become. I looked at that thing and I said, you know what? Whatever money comes to me, I'm going to spend it on ice cream or whatever makes me happy. I'm not going to reward people to do satanic mess. It has to be good, or it has to be free on YouTube. And then I'll watch that. I'm not paying anyone to show me this rubbish, because this is just the corruption of a society. And this is when God was not even bringing strong information yet. This is 2015, 2016. God was not even bringing strong information yet concerning this topic of transing. Whenever this Eddie Redmayne movie was, and the Moonshine, whichever one it was, as well as the one with Cate Blanchett falling in love with another woman, it's always same to same. It's become normalized. Alphabet LGBTQ life is normalized now, see? So we have to move on to the next thing. The next thing is be the thing you are, but not the thing you are. And that's what I'm saying. If you're caught up in any of these lifestyles, you need to come home to God. You need to come away from those fences. You need to start looking in the mirror and asking yourself, you see, listen to me, please. If you make all your decisions based on what your body feels, you do know that the rulership of your body will come to an end. Every single body is going to return to its original state, or if it lives long enough, it will enter into the time period where we will evermore be with the Lord. The time of the rulership of your body is limited. It will come to its natural end. After that, it is the time of your soul and your spirit, and they will go into an eternal holding pattern, either with the Lord forevermore, in his eternal and perfect rest, or in the lake of fire forever. So all I have to say to you is, please don't make long-term decisions using short-term desires and emotions. Okay, so now we are in Daniel chapter 8, and we're simply looking at the time that it's talking about. How can we know what time period it is when we will start to see all these things? Well, besides the obvious that we're already in that time period, Daniel told us long ago, and I'll just read this one verse. It's not so much focusing on the king, so please don't focus on the fact that it's talking about this final figure that will come upon us. Listen to the description of the time that he will arise in. Verse 23 of chapter 8 of Daniel. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors have reached their fullness, a king shall arise, having fierce features, who understands sinister schemes. I'll read that again. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors have reached their fullness, a king shall arise, having fierce features, who understands sinister schemes, dark workings, a king of fierce features, a very hard and uncompromising face. We're not just talking about the way the gaze of this man will be. We're talking about the fact that he shall not be moved, even when ordering the black-clad cops to go and burn down an entire borough because he's sick of the protests in that borough. That's the kind of person we're talking about. What time is this man coming out in? It says it will be a time when transgressors have reached their fullness. A time when transgressors, this is law breakers right there. Do not think when it says, oh, transgressors is talking about, hey, Celestial, I messed up. I see a lot of that. And I want to encourage you. If you messed up, you need to return to your prayer altar. You need to return to the place of repentance. If you're dealing with what we call besetting sins, a sin that just keeps coming back like a wash cycle, it means that you have an iniquity. It literally means that you have a cut in your spirit. A cut in your spirit. It could be generationally, something that was in your family, like alcoholism, like broken marriages, like taking drugs, something like the first child in the family always dies a horrible death, something like that, or is always a philanderer, can't keep a relationship, can't keep a marriage, fifth marriage, sixth marriage. That's an iniquity. It's like a cut on the inside of the spirit, and that thing needs to be healed by breaking the patterns that cause this sin to keep repeating in the bloodline, father, son, mother, daughter, father, son, mother, daughter, like that. It may be a besetting sin. That means that perhaps you have not actually completely surrendered that area to Jesus Christ. And as a result, any area of your life that you do not completely let go of, by confessing, I'm wasted to this thing. I'm wasted to the meth. I'm wasted to the remaining grams of methadone, I think it's called, the remaining methadone grams. I just can't seem to get off them. You need to actually admit that the thing has you whipped, that you are its complete and willing slave. Don't you dare go in front of Jesus Christ like, I hate it, but I don't know what's wrong. Remember that I said it is mankind who lives in deceit. Jesus Christ lives in the bright sunny meadow where the truth is always shining because the truth is him. Please do not go in front of that person and start lying to him. It's offensive. It also shows that you just can't read the room. You need to go and you need to be honest. You need to be open. This is me, and I'm a slave to it. It has me whipped. I'm whipped to the lying. I'm whipped to the gossip, Jesus. It is I, your child, who came to confess to you. I'm coming to ask your mercy, your help, your forgiveness, first of all, because this is my 15th time coming to you about this thing this month. You need to pray for God to give you the ground incrementally. Some of you just want to jump into the prayer closet, do some prayers, tell me, Celestial, I fasted 2 days and I've got it beat. 2 weeks later, you'll be back here. Man, man, I've been away. No, I know a woman of God. I know you were making videos. I was a bit heavy. I didn't want to come back here. Some stuff just got messed up. I just know this person went back to the vomit, and they can't even be honest about the flavor of the vomit. They're here telling me some stuff just got messed up. Who are you lying to? I know it's not me. There is no purpose that a lie serves in the life of a Christian. Take your flashlight, shine it on every lie, and get free. Okay? So, transgressors are lawbreakers. Transgressors are the girlies who, when the abortion topic comes up, will say, but if her life was in danger, right there, you just need to go to the left. The goat side, go to the left. Because that is where the transgressors are going to be numbered. It says when the lawbreakers reach their fullness. A lawbreaker is one who can never come into complete conformity with the law of Jesus Christ. Anything Jesus Christ says, you have a comma. Where he put a period, a full stop, you turn it into a comma skillfully through your calligraphy gifts, and then you begin to write new things. But that doesn't really apply if the person is diverse and inclusive. It's never a finished sentence with what the Bible says. No, you have extra. You have more.
Like to live a happy life. I want to settle down. I believe everybody wants to settle down. As far as marriage goes, I want a man that wants to go places, do things, make something of itself. You know the old saying, behind every good man there's a woman.
Was zu mir?
Die Betten hier sind wirklich viel besser. Bis gleich.
Halt, wart doch mal, das geht doch nicht. Ilona.
Monsieur Bronner?
Einen Augenblick, bitte.
Okay,
Ilona,
bye bye.
Das geht doch nicht. Madame Cabalet. Madame Cabalet. Entschuldigen Sie, aber ich war da gerade in ein Missverständnis geraten. Ich freue mich, Sie endlich persönlich kennenzulernen.
Kommen wir zum Geschäft.
Aber das hat doch Zeit. Darf ich Sie zu einem Drink an der Bar einladen?
Erst das Geschäft, dann das Vergnügen.
Einverstanden. Sie haben die Unterlagen bekommen?
Ja,
Und wie finden Sie sie?
beschissen. 6%, das ist mein letztes Wort.
Aber ich bitte Sie. Wie kann eine so bildschöne, charmante Frau nur so hart sein?
Überlegen Sie sich mein Angebot.
Sie wollen schon wieder gehen?
Ich werde Sie anrufen. Au revoir.
Na, wie gehen die Geschäfte?
Monsieur Brunner?
Ja, das bin ich.
Madame Cavalier wird Sie bald empfangen.
Das ist aber nett.
Einen Moment, Monsieur. Legen Sie bitte ab.
Aber ablegen? Was denn?
Alles.
Was?
Ja, alles, Monsieur.
Sie meinen wirklich alles?
Ja, Monsieur, alles.
Esquire magazine will feature her in its annual Women We Love issue, and the feeling's mutual. You said a man is not a necessity, a man is a luxury.
Like dessert. Yeah. Man, it's absolutely not necessity.
Did you mean that to sound mean and bitter?
Oh, not at all. I adore dessert. I love men. I think men are the coolest. But you don't really need them to live. My mom said to me, you know, sweetheart, one day you should settle down and marry a rich man. And I said, Mom, I am a rich man. You know? My experience with men is great because I pick them because I like them. I don't need them. Nice. I've been living in London, and I've had that, and now I'd like to try Ireland for a while.
This suggests that you're becoming mellow.
My mother would be glad to hear you say that. My mother's waiting for me to grow old and settle down,
Yeah.
marry a rich man.
I thought in your case it'd be the other way around. You know,
No.
lots of poor guys want to marry you.
No, my mother said, Cher, when you get older, I wish you'd hurry to get older so that you would settle down and marry a rich man. And I said, Mom, I am a rich man. You know, it's like I don't have to marry one.
From a hot man to one of the hottest women in the business right now, Megan Fox with me now. Why do you shake your head?
Because I'm pretty sure I'm a doppelganger for Alan Alda.
Oh, God, out of here.
I'm a tranny. I'm a man.
You do not look in the mirror and not think you're beautiful. Don't even.
No, I'm so painfully insecure. Like I'm on the verge of vomiting right now. I'm so horrified that I'm here and embarrassed and scared.
Is this your first time here?
Yeah, it's my first time.
Everybody knows that you're a very attractive woman, but tell us, what would surprise people about Jessica Alba?
I'm a man.
To hit you with the 1-2 step, 106 and Park, make some noise for Sierra! Come over there.
Welcome back, Mama. Have a seat.
Sit down, sit down.
I like your boots.
Doing the boot thing,
so much. I gotta look at the heel. I gotta look at the heel. Very nice. You can hurt somebody with those.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're gonna jump right into it right now. We have a thing that we do sometime with celebrities that come over here. We do a whole clear the air session.
Yeah.
So if there are any rumors, anything that's going on with Sierra,
Yeah.
which there are all on the internet and all that other mess, clear the air right now. Let the people know what's going on.
Oh my goodness, there's so many crazy,
Get
funny
ATL
things.
grimy.
And you know, I gotta say, none of them bother me, but I'll just do it just to do it because whatever. There's one thing about me being a man or something like that before I was, something when I was born, I got a change.
Really?
A hermaphrodite or something like that. And they said that I went on Oprah and did it. And I'm like, okay, come on now. You know, if I was on Oprah, like, I mean, it takes a while before that happens for somebody to go on Oprah. You know what I mean? Like, that's really big. So we know that didn't happen. If you can find it, though, I'll give you $100 grand and fly you around the world and do everything for you if you can find that tape and play it for me.
Right. Let's shut it down.
Yeah, and then there something else about me being a lesbian or something like that. I mean, it's so sad that I'm sitting right here and dressing. It's like, it's so funny to me. And one thing that I feel about in life is that the bigger and better things get for you, the more people try to bring you down. And that's just the way I see it.
It's the truth.
So I mean, that's not true. I'm here to say it's not true. If you can do that, I give you $100 grand again, and I give you the car that I'm trying to buy coming up, my Range Rover that I want to get. I give it to you. I want to get it for myself.
Okay, and those are the ones. Those are the ones that you really.
Yeah, those are the two that I've heard. I mean, it's funny to me though. It don't bother me. It's cool. I've been through it in high school. I mean, it is what it is. It's all over again. It's whatever. It's fun. This is what I do. Whatever.
So that's all the drama that comes with your success. But how are you enjoying all the positive things that are coming?
You know what? All the positive things. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
it's really been
it's
a
been a great
blessing.
year.
Oh my goodness, I'm enjoying myself. The traveling, I'm getting more fans. Oh my gosh, it is so.
I got it right there, Amanda. So Amanda, what's your story?
Well, I'm not a prostitute either. I just came over here to explain how a queen's life is.
Queen's life.
Yeah, but the slang word, you know.
Do you date fellows?
Yes, I date straight men.
Only straight men.
Yes.
So are they gay men?
No, I don't consider them gay whatsoever.
Then what is the attraction?
It's just, you know, I can't really explain that. I just know that when you being with a queen and being with a man, it's something special. It's not just a man-woman kind of thing.
But isn't it just a man with long hair or, you know, a dress on?
Biologically, yes, it's a man, but, you know, in mind, mentally, it's not really all man. You know, otherwise he wouldn't dress like that. You know. Honey, you would want to shut it down for the simple fact is, honey, you're a woman and you don't get half as much as raps that we do, okay? We live our lives twice as hard as you do, okay? And we deserve everything we want to get, okay? You have nerve.
I think if I could just be on TV or film or anything, I'd do that instead of the money. Of course, I do want the money because I want the luxury that goes with it. But I want to be wealthy. If not wealthy, content, comfortable. You know? I want to be somebody. I mean, I am somebody. I just want to be a rich somebody. If money wasn't so important in the world today to survive, I guess I wouldn't want anything but what I have now. But since money does, I hope that the way I look puts money in my pocket, you know? I'm really working hard. I'm gonna work even harder.
Yeah, there we are. That is lovely. Still? Great. Couldn't be better. There, oh, it's beautiful like that for the light when you kind of, you know, do this to the light.
I want people to look at me as there's the model Octavia. There's the actress Octavia. There's Miss Supermodel of the World Octavia.
Is this endless, this catalog of poses? I could keep going or longer than you could? Yeah, just there.
I don't want to end up an old drag queen with nothing going for me but trying to win grand prize at a ball.
Yeah, no, back a little bit like you did. Yes, that. Twisting a little bit more to the light, just coming around that. Yeah, right. Couldn't be better. Yeah,
I don't think the world has been fair to me. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, lovely. Lovely.
Okay.
That's silicone?
This is silicone. 100% industrial grade silicone bought from a hardware store. And guess what? If I was a silicone pumper, I'm gonna take this home, put it in a jar with a little bit of baby oil, mix it up, make it nice and loose, okay? And start calling up the girls for a pumping party, okay? There's a lot of risks behind this.
Free-form silicone is not contained in an implant. It is pumped with a syringe directly into the tissues of the body to achieve an instant feminine form in the cheeks, breasts, or buttocks.
I decided to get work done, get pumped, basically because for a long time I felt okay, I was doing good. The past before was good at one point, but I always said you can always enhance.
I want it like body. I'm Puerto Rican and I've always felt that women with curves is more attractive. I went to this person and she got these like big syringe needles, like huge. I had to lie like on a
table, collapsible table that they use for like massage or something. And I had to sit there for a while she was pumping this stuff, and I could feel it separating like the tissue from, and it was very painful. And what she does so that it doesn't leak and you don't do any like strenuous movements or any sharp movements, she puts crazy glue on the holes of the puncture holes where the syringe needles were to keep it from leaking. She did a fantastic job on me. I have no complaints, at least thus far. But the person that did do me was responsible for certain cases that went really bad. And one of them being a girlfriend of mine, she had her breasts filled with this liquid form of silicone. And she wound up having a pulmonary embolism, and she was hospitalized and she almost died.
When you're a trans girl and you want to be accepted as a woman, you do just about anything to fit that mold, especially if you're a young kid who's homeless and unemployed, and all you have is the money that you make off of sex work to basically survive off of, then, you know, the silicone pumping doesn't seem like such a bad idea.
I never pumped myself with silicone, but I think it's important for a lot of the girls, for their self-esteem, for their safety, and I think to be more passive. They really don't focus that in 5 years from now, if they pump it in their cheeks, it could be down on their jaw in 5 years. Or if they do it in their buttocks, that'll drop all the way down.
Realmente es como una bomba de tiempo, porque la silicona se corre un riesgo muy grande. Porque eso es como inyectarte un cemento adentro de tu cuerpo.
Bailey, you must deal with this stuff I really want to hear your point of view on
With
this.
stereotypes? Yeah, I mean, I've never looked in a mirror sobbing while taking a wig off. That's never happened to me. I'm just grateful I'm here and you didn't have Jared Leto play me tonight. Yeah, I deal with all sorts of stereotypes. Some of them are true. I always say I'm almost more sexist since I've started estrogen therapy, because I have like no hand-eye coordination and I'm crying all the time. But so stereotypes are really annoying. When they're done for comedy, I think that's a great context for it. It makes people laugh. It makes all of us laugh at each other.
It brings out the dumbness of it.
Exactly, and it brings us closer together, laughing at how different all of us are. And I think that's really important. When it affects decision making or people getting employed or things like that,
that's a problem.
Or then it's a huge problem. But yeah, people tend to look at me like I have a broken leg. Like they're just like, oh, this must be so terrible for you because you had to go through a journey. And I'm like, I've had an awesome life. It's been super easy.
You don't have a broken leg. You just have a leg you don't use.
I have a third leg. Yeah.
So Diana, right? What are some moments, or can you share with me a moment that you've had with Diana, just playing alongside her, being on this team, and then being with her at Team USA?
I mean, Dee's amazing. Like, I always say that's the big homie, my best friend. But then I'm also, like, in awe of her, too, always. Dee just always brings out the best in me. Like, she tells me what I need to hear. She tells me what I don't want to hear, but I also need to actually hear. And she challenges me. Even when I think, like, I can't do it, she's like, you can do it. Like, that's what she tells me. She'll be like, you can do it. I don't care. You can do it. Go do it. And then I'm like, okay, well, if she says that, then I guess I can.
I know that's right. I think there's probably one other job that you're about to get into that is really hard and really scary. You're about to be a mom. How is that feeling? Pops. Oh, let me get it together.
Pops.
About to be a pops. Please tell me how exciting that is for you and what you're looking forward to most.
I'm super excited. Well, I mean, I guess I'll just drop it. He's here. So he's here. Yes. 7'8", 7 pounds, 8 ounces. Yeah, that's my man.
I love that.
He is amazing. They say, you know, as soon as you see him, it just, like, everything that you thought mattered just goes out the window. And that's literally what happens. It's kind of sucks because I got to leave, you know, but at the same time, he'll understand.
Expect all of the photos, all of the pictures.
Oh yeah,
my whole phone
my whole phone is turned into him now.
I can't wait for transsexuals to be known and be accepted in society and to show our true beauty and that we're not freaks, we're beautiful women.
Zaya Wade first came out as transgender at the age of just 12 and since has been granted an official name and gender change despite her birth mother's bid to stop it. Wade has quickly become a pioneer of the LGBTQ+ community, sharing her journey publicly. And the 15-year-old has just added CoverGirl to her long list of achievements. In her first cover story, Wade expressed how much support she's received from her parents since coming out, particularly highlighting some important advice from her stepmom. The lesson has changed over time, but more recently, it's that beauty is in yourself. But despite the support from her family, it doesn't mean she's receiving the same love from the rest of the world. A lot of attention equals a lot more hate, a lot more transphobia, she said, but admits having such an inclusive platform outweighs all the negativity online. She recently took that inclusivity to the runway as she made her debut in Paris. The 15-year-old slayed her stuff at the Miu Miu Fall 2023 show. Speaking to Days on her career move, Zaya said that she had a connection to clothes and explained how they helped with her gender expression. Her biggest fans, her parents, sat front row and shared just how proud of their daughter they were all over their social media. Since Wade's coming out, her parents have consistently stood up for their daughter and for trans rights. After recently being honoured with the President's Award at the annual NAACP Awards, Gabrielle and Dwayne advocated for LGBT rights and took the time to thank their daughter, Zaya, for opening their eyes on how to be a better advocate.
And even though it's not easy, I watched you walk out of that house every morning as yourself.
But the power couple admit they're still learning more and more. In an interview from 2021, Dwayne admitted he wasn't knowledgeable of the LGBTQ+ community and that Zaya had opened his eyes.
Just trying to figure out as much information we can to make sure that we give our child the best opportunity to be, her best self.
Wade has since reflected back on being a role model to trans youth. As a role model, I try to use my personal experience to broadcast the positives and also the negatives in life because a lot of LGBTQ+ youth go unrecognised in every way, she told Days. Zaya Wade continues her work as a trans activist, changing the world for so many one step at a time.
Dwayne Wade's daughter, Zaya Wade. Where is she now? Zaya, who is only 16 years old, has already made a profound impression on the world. Zaya was born in 2007 and grew up in a warm blended family where she received support and unconditional love. She has openly shared that she has a very close relationship with her stepmother Union, who has taught her how to love herself. In 2020, Zaya publicly expressed her transgender identity and received full support from her father, Dwayne Wade, and stepmother Gabrielle Union. When Wade and Union filed paperwork to legally change Zaya's name and gender, this decision was strongly opposed by Zaya's biological mother, leading to tension in Zaya's relationship with her mother. Zaya frequently advocates for LGBTQ+ rights both online and offline, encouraging teenagers to confidently be their true selves. Despite facing criticism herself and within her family, they fearlessly continue their advocacy. Zaya is also an advocate for LGBTQ+ youth. In May of this year, Zaya and her father launched a safe platform called Translatable, aimed at empowering young people to express themselves more bravely. With Zaya's influence on social media and her unique understanding of fashion, she officially became a fashion model in 2023. Zaya Wade's story has inspired many ordinary people. Despite facing significant criticism and negativity as a public figure, she continues to pursue what she believes in. She is truly courageous.
I wanted to know whether these performers believe in God and whether they realize that according to His Word, the lifestyle that they're living is an abomination.
Yes, I am a strong believer. Let me answer this. I'm a very strong believer in God. And if you are a Christian also, it's a personal experience. So my relationship with God is none of your business. Okay? So therefore, yes, I am a strong believer. I'd like to add to that. Can you hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
First of all, yeah, I'm grateful and that I'm a human. Excuse me, I'm still sweating from dancing and all that. But this is what I've told people a lot of times. That I have this incredible talent, and where it came from, it had to come from God, because what I've been doing has been able to I've been able to make a living from it. I've helped my parents as much as I can, and I actually do. And someplace, somewhere, I had to be given this talent, and I believe it was God given for me to be able to make a life so I could help my family that couldn't help themselves, but now I can do it. So with this job, I'm helping myself and my family.
Yeah.